We're going to have you on. There we go. Ta-da. Let's go like that. Can't do that. All right. I'm trying to keep a small window. I hate to ask you this. Can you move to your right?
To my right.
Yeah, excellent. Maybe I need to expand the window here if I can.
Well, you can move it to the right a little bit.
I know, but I want to keep both of us in frame.
Yeah, there you go, right there.
Yeah, that's what. But I can. It won't let me. Okay. All right. So here is Lenore Andriel. This is the class behind us. Raise your hands if you're all cool about being videotaped back there. There's other people to the side. Lenore is a very cool person. She is apart from being a cool person, she's also a working actress. She's a producer and she's a writer, and she's written the award-winning movie Yellow Rock. And we've talked about Yellow Rock many times on Rex Sikes Movie, the show, the radio show, the podcast. And we've talked with the director and some of her co-stars, a wardrobe mistress, and a Western consultant, one of the other producers. I mean, we've talked to a number of, and the composer. So, and we did that so that we could talk about, like 360 degrees, about the making of an independent feature. So, this is Lenore.
Good morning, everyone. How are you?
Good. Tired.
Okay.
You know what is interesting? You're backlit.
I know. And so I was actually going to say to you, because I could see that I'm backlit, if you want me to try to move this so that my iPad, so that you can actually see me a little bit better.
There, much better. Perfect. Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Because
hi, baby.
Hi, honey.
All right.
I'm going to do it like this.
Yeah, excellent.
I don't know if that'll work. Is that working, guys?
That's good. And then it's just keeping it steady.
There we go.
I'm going to go ahead and talk to class. I have to take a brief call, and I'll be right back.
Okay. Well, listen, you guys. This is actually really a pleasure for me. I've done this in California as well, only we do it in person. And I've gone into the LA Film School, and we've talked, and really I'm here to kind of address whatever concerns you may have, whatever you really want to talk about, because this is really for you. I don't know how much Rex has really gotten into why we're even here talking in terms of my background. I am an actress, and I started my own production company a while back because I really wanted to do something that was meaningful instead of just sort of your typical garbagey B films that, I mean, there's a lot of them out there. We all know that. And I started a company called Enlightenment Films and became a hyphenate and started creating my own material. So I was fortunate enough to put that together and wind up doing an independent film that was just, it's been released worldwide. It's called Yellow Rock. And it got into the festival circuit, and we wound up winning 18 awards. It's a Western. So writing a Western, a woman writing a Western, I guess is a little bit unusual. So I just wanted to give you sort of a quick, broad stroke so that it gives you kind of a framework to think about some of the things that you might want to talk about, whether it's screenplay writing, the acting in it, the directing. I did direct post, and producing. So I'm really here for you guys to help you in any way I can.
She also, with her partner, raised the money. I don't know if
Yes.
you mentioned that already. So, I mean, you raised the money to get her own movie made.
That's true, which is always the most difficult part. I think of movie making. It's not making the movie; it's getting the doing the fundraising to get an independent film made.
Right. And oftentimes you spend as many years or longer time trying to get the money than you actually do in production, post-production, and marketing.
Yeah. I wanted to ask Rex: Are most of the people there filmmakers, writers, producers, sort of all of the above?
These are students at the university, sophomore to senior. They are writer, director, producer candidate, cinematographer, animator, editor. You know, wearing different hats and wearing multiple hats, but they are. This is a class primarily on the business of making connections and advancing your career,
Okay.
And so, you know, like I do on my regular show, I have guests come in like yourself who can talk to them and answer some of their questions and talk about the different departments or the different hats that we wear.
Right, great. Awesome. Okay, terrific. So there's a range of topics that we could certainly discuss.
So,
well, what I was just saying when you went to make the call or get the call, I'm really here for you guys because I wound up getting into multiple different areas that I had not anticipated initially when I started as an actress. I really want to help in any way I can, sort of give a broad stroke of this is what my experience was like, this is what I do experience, so that maybe they can garner something from that when you go out to make a film.
And let's also just let them know that you know, I approached you on this, like, Friday, and said, can you do Monday? You know, will you do Monday? And she was working. She's on the set. Or maybe it was, like, Wednesday or Thursday. But because you were working, and the next day you were working, I'll call you when I get off the set. And we went back and forth. And so she's made herself available, and I appreciate that.
Absolutely. So what would you sort of like to sort of dive into first? Which aspect?
You have questions? I mean...
Sure.
Okay.
Well, I guess kind of just, did you know...
Introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm Erin.
Hi, Erin.
Hi. Did you know initially what you wanted to do, and then you just ended up experimenting with a lot of different like jobs in film, or did you just not know what you wanted to do?
Oh, that's actually an interesting question. Interestingly enough, I studied music first. I went to Westminster Choir College in Princeton. So music was actually my background. I was a musician. I played keyboards, everything from regular electronic keyboards all the way up to the giant pipe organs. So I've kind of still in the entertainment business, but went a circuitous route, I guess. And I actually started producing concerts first. I raised the money to purchase a 3,000-seat theater in New Jersey, in the metropolitan area, and started producing concerts, live concerts, and everything from jazz to classical. It was the gamut, opera to rock, whatever, R&B, and that producing gave me the background I needed later on once I became an actress. And also, it gave me the ability to walk out on stage every night in front of 3,000 people live and talk about the show, what we were going to be doing. So it was sort of my initial start. It was like an amalgamation of what I wound up becoming. So the long answer is that. The short answer is no. I guess I didn't. I thought I was going to be in the music and entertainment business and wound up becoming still in the entertainment business, but in film and television and theater with my own projects.
I'm going to interrupt the train of thought to ask you a separate question.
Okay.
And make some people feel guilty here. You're an actress. You're a union actor, and have been for years. And you're a producer. What happens if somebody shows up late?
To set?
To set.
As far as crew or cast?
Crew or cast?
Well, cast, it's a lot more difficult. Very difficult to reprimand my fellow castmates. Especially if they're in the top tier.
Well, yes, in that case, yes.
Cast.
But I mean, in general, as a working actress, what happens if you get a job at Universal tomorrow and you show up 10 minutes late, a half hour late?
Oh, well, I mean, if I'm working for somebody else, I've got my head handed to me. If it's a studio picture, obviously.
Right.
If it's an independent picture and I'm doing a lead, well, they're going to be a little bit more delicate about it. The easiest answer is to just not be late. You don't want to. Everyone's going to be different on every set. Some people are very cool and laid back. Sometimes they're running late. It's like, oh, you know what? No worries. We're running late. We're a little behind. Get into hair and makeup. Other people, if they're on schedule and it's a bigger production, you know, it's a whole nother ball game. I think it also depends upon who the director is. You know, some directors are very cool. Some are, and you get the hatchet. So well, you can be fired.
But you also raised a good point. That is, if you're producing or directing, you could have a lead that waltzes in whenever they damn well feel like it. You know, if it's an independent.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you do encounter those problems where, you know, Marilyn Monroe, for example, had a reputation of showing up days later.
Yeah, exactly. Well, even on Yellow Rock, and it was sort of the flip side of that, being a producer on Yellow Rock, we had my co-stars were Michael Biehn and James Russo, and James was always Johnny on the spot. I'm going to be here for you guys. He was in his trailer early. He was going over his script. Michael Biehn would roll in. He wasn't necessarily late, but we were nervous. Excuse me. And what are you going to do? Those are our male leads for the project. You have to kind of roll with it when you're an independent producer.
Excellent.
So it really depends on which side of the aisle you're on.
So, but going back, because it was a question originally about knowing what you want. Is that?
Yes.
You will clarify. I, for example, was on a set of a TV production when I was about 19, and I was talking to the hair and makeup who were a husband and wife, and they said, "This is where we landed." We had wanted to be actors, but we decided we'd rather work in the industry instead than to spend most of our time not working. So we took crew positions, and they had worked steady, and they enjoyed it. They weren't, if they wanted to act, they could still do community theater kind of things, but they down the road made a decision about where they wanted to end up. You may want to write right now and find out that you're acting, or you might find out later you're producing or directing or animating or any number of things.
Yeah, I think, and it's Erin. Is that correct, Erin?
Yep.
I think that was a really valid question because you can have I think you always want to try to stay true to whatever your passion is, but also be open-minded to which pathway either may get you there in a different way or may bring you joy in another way. And when I started as an actress, I never thought in a million years I would be screenwriting. Didn't even occur to me. Never thought I would be doing any directing or I thought maybe producing further down the road. I did think that was a possibility. So my passion was always there, but I also tried to keep an open mind. And in order to be the kind of actor that I wanted to be ultimately and have something meaningful to say, the screenplay writing then wound up giving me that stage to do that with. And I was fortunate enough to be able to write a screenplay that someone wanted to put the backing to, and wound up giving us all these awards. Who knew? And I don't think you know necessarily, or have to have that end result in your mind. Oh, I'm going to write this screenplay, and I want to get 18 awards from it. I think you have to write from what you believe in and from your heart. And it's the field of dreams idea. Build it, and they'll come. If you really put your heart and soul into it and try to view something that you think other people might want to see, those two things can marry up and be successful for you.
Excellent. We also, given other conversations we've had with other people as well, is this is a day and age where it is in some ways far easier to make your own breaks or create your own shots. Nearly all of the working TV actors that are a name, or people like Lenore, who's working constantly, create their own production companies so that they can launch projects. A lot of them you don't see because everybody's trying to do, everybody's trying to get money and do everything. But the point is they're trying to make their own breaks. Maybe they're in a TV series, but they want to do this particular feature. So this is where, for you guys, this is where it's exciting. Lenore, as an actress, wrote a screenplay and now is producing, directing, and writing and all these other things. She made her own shots. She created her own breaks. That's very cool.
Thank you. Well, and you're right about that. I do, and any of the even television and film actors, they all have their own production company. Whether they're going to be in them or not, they all have them now. And it is very smart to do, because you never know how long your career is going to be on television or in film. You just don't know what's going to happen. Look at George Clooney, look at Ben Affleck. All these guys have gone on to do other things, directing and producing. Tom Hanks has his own production company. That company's working all the time. so many times you turn on TV and, oh my God, this was executive produced by Tom Hanks. Oh my God, this is Playtone. Or I think that's the name of this company, Playtone. So you're right about that. And I think our business is changing and really does welcome that more than it used to be a couple of years ago. It was sort of kind of looked at before like, oh, well, that must mean you're hyping it because you can't really be successful in one field or another. And that has really changed now. Now people are actually very much more respected. If, oh, okay, well, you know what? Now you can serve me better because I know you can write a screenplay, or, okay, you can actually help me produce this film. So it really opens up the field of possibilities in a lot of ways.
Cool. All right, other questions from anybody? Yeah.
Hi, I'm Ryan.
Hi, Ryan.
I just wanted to know what your tips would be for fundraising for what do you think is the most important thing to know when you're going to ask people for money for your film?
Oh, that's a great question. I think what you have to know is who your market is, because at the end of the day, it all boils down to that, because that's how the investor is going to get their money back. So if you don't know how the film is going to be marketed, or if you just have a general idea, that's really not good enough. You have to really, really know. It has to be really broken down in your mind and your team's mind, and then put to paper or put it up on, put it on your iPad, and you have a whole presentation of how they're going to get their money back, how it's going to be marketed, who is your audience that you're appealing to, where does the film land? Does it land as, this is absolutely a limited theatrical release that we want to go for? Is this a web series? Is it something that is really just for the festival circuit, and our goal is to garner as many awards as possible? They want to know what that end result is, because then that tends to dictate financially, and also from a promotional standpoint, where their pride is going to land as well. The investor, a private investor, is one of two animals. They're going to be someone who has invested before, or they've never invested, right? So no matter how you slice it, their ego is always going to be a part of that. There's certainly the financial aspect, but them being a part of something is definitely a part of whether they're going to get involved or not. Oh, this is something I can show my kids. Oh, this is something I can tell the family. Wow, it's going to be on, on Sony Movie Channel on Tuesday night, or we're going to go to the premiere of this in Los Angeles. So how what's going to wind up being the effect of the cause that you started with is going to be really important, and that's how you're going to be able to sell it as well. And then you kind of walk it backwards in terms of your plan. If you know where you're going to land, it gives you a much better viewpoint, I think, of how to map that out, how to get there. And I learned a lot of pros and cons with our film, with Yellow Rock. And sort of one of the cons was that this was really, it's really a DVD. It's because of it being a Western, it's a Blu-ray, it's a DVD. That's really where it landed. And right as the movie was coming out 2 years ago, the DVD market was sinking fast. We weren't really told that by our producers' reps. We weren't told that by our distributor. They actually didn't even really see it coming. But all of a sudden, all of the DVD stores, Blockbuster was going out, everything was going out of business, and it was sort of shifting to VOD and to streaming. So we kind of didn't, we thought it was going to land in DVD land, and a lot of the estimates from both the foreign and U.S. distributors, the big money was actually coming in there. So then we had to kind of switch and dance to another tune over here. Okay, well, then we're going to really push streaming and push VOD. So I think it is important to also have a backup plan. Have your map and where you want to land, but also have a backup plan. Because you always want to be able to reassure your investors that at the very least, according to the estimates from distributors, it should make their money back plus have a really great safety net. And I think there's something new that's been happening, and we certainly were doing it on Yellow Rock. I don't find investors, as long as they know their boundaries, that they are not the say-all. You have the bottom line say. But involve them. Let them know that they're going to be involved. Give them some incentive where they can feel like, hey, you guys we'd love to have you in the movie, as a day play, or come on set and be a part of it and have dinner with the stars. Make sure that they and their family, let them know you're going to be a big part of the premiere. When we premiere it, we want to have you on camera in some of the interviews. There's many ways that you can incentivize them to make them feel really great and part of the family of doing this film. And it is helpful. It really is, because if they're not in the business, wow, now they've got an opportunity to put their foot in and maybe have their daughter come in and she's playing a little day player, or things that they can brag about. They want bragging rights. And I think that is a new way that a lot of people are going, and I think it can be very beneficial. You find the ways that'll make them feel really great and respected and a part of it.
Cool. Excellent. Who else? Yes, Grant.
My name is Grant. And
I'm sorry, your name, dear?
Grant.
Grant. That's a great name.
Oops.
Okay. It fell off.
Good thing you're dressed.
Hi, Grant.
Hi. Anyway, my question's about the screenwriting process, more specifically the research process.
Okay.
So you did a film, Yellow Rock, and it was a Western. So I'm wondering how extensive the research for that was, and if it influenced your story in any way.
These questions are awesome. I don't know if you guys are doing this off the top of your head or if you've come with these questions prepared. These are great. Research to me, and this is just me, and I think every screenplay writer is different. It's just my cornerstone. It really is. Because for me, personally, it gives me a level of authenticity that can bleed in the most amazing ways that you never even thought possible, whether it's the dialogue of your characters, whether it's your description for the director of how you visually see a scene culminating, or just facts that will come out and lend itself to the progression of your overarching storyline. I did do a lot of research for Yellow Rock. It gave me the basis. We fictionalized a story about a Native American tribe in California that no longer exists, that were just peacefully existing, and once white men came in, hearing about gold within their territory, it became deadly, and they were eventually annihilated because of the greed of the white man, so to speak. But I based it in fact, and I don't think you can do enough research. I think it spurs you. For me, it gives me a passion, because all of a sudden I'm reading about, wow, this tribe that was in San Bernardino, this band of 6 guys came in and they just slit the throats of these people and went into their territory and just took it over. So it was giving me even more fire in my belly for it. And but at the same time, you have to know when to stop also, that it's going to serve your work, but yet not get you so mired in the continual researching that you could spend a ton of time researching and not actually getting the work done. And I think it probably goes to using your own instincts at that point of when you want to stop doing your research. I don't think you ever complete the research, you just stop.
And to that point, you then also had Michael and Eddie as Native American consultants. You had Peter as a Western. So you had other people that you brought on to the production before you were shooting.
Yes.
Who could say, well, this would be more authentic this way or that way, because they're in the know. Tell us a little bit about Michael and Eddie and Peter and who they are.
Okay, great. Yeah, and just to add to that, I think, and just to go back to your point for 1 second, Grant, look, at the end of the day, you're not making a documentary unless you're making a documentary. So at a certain point, you will know when to use your own poetic license to to give the basis in reality and make it authentic based on your research. And then from there, you have to let your own spirit live with how creative you want to be with that information. And then that sort of goes to, yes, you're right. With Michael and Eddie Spears, my God. Hold on, guy. This is one of the downsides of Skype. You want to always make sure it's not on a surface that's going to fall. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Michael and Eddie Spears are actually Native American actors that are brothers. They've worked a lot in very wonderfully large, beautiful productions like Into the West for Steven Spielberg, etc.
And Hell on Wheels.
I'm sorry.
And Hell on Wheels and Sons of Anarchy. I mean,
yes.
Some of the
and they're great guys, and they are Lakota Sioux, and especially Michael. They really love and celebrate their Native American heritage. And when we found out how actually immersed they were in that heritage in their life, on a continual basis, they sing and dance and drum at powwows and are speakers at all kinds of wonderful Native American events. I was on the set with Michael. He came in and I said, well, let's go in my trailer, which were donated, by the way. If you can get Honey Wagons donated for your production, it's awesome. And we sat down in the trailer and we started going over the script as actors and also me talking to him as a producer. And I realized that he was this plethora of amazing information and went, Michael, my God, would you be interested in being the Native American consultant, you and Eddie, on this, because you know far more than I do and you exceeded, Grant, the research that I did, because they're enmeshed in this almost what seems to be like a secret society in the Native American culture, information that I would never have been able to find on the internet, and it really helped make it come alive that much more so. And he gladly took it on and said, absolutely, this will be something I will celebrate. And we had him at every point whenever there was anything that was paramount to the Native American tribe that we had created. He would come in and go through everything from hair and makeup and costumes to the art, to all of the art direction, set direction. It was fabulous. He gave us a whole other perspective that we didn't have. The same thing with Peter Cherenko, who you've had on the show as well. You've had both
a few times. I've had all of them on a number of times.
Yeah. He's a real. I mean, he's a real cowboy. This man, he really is. I think his first start was really in Tombstone. If I think that's where he started. I'm not sure.
I don't know if that was the first thing, but that was probably the notoriety making.
Yeah, the first thing that really launched him.
Right.
Yes, you're right. He had been doing things prior to that. And he has his own company called Caravan West, where he's been, if you go to his place, his ranch, he has like 7 or 8 buildings that have guns in one building and
thousands
of guns and ammunition, and it's the most amazing place to visit. An entire warehouse full of everything from handcuffs to bottles to books to doctor's bags. I mean, saddlery, tack. He has everything you need to do an authentic Western period piece. And possibly even Civil War too. He's got a ton of Civil War stuff. And so he's an actor who, like you were saying before, kind of took another path and realized that he just loved collecting antiques and props for Westerns and Civil War and period pieces, and made it a side business for himself where he makes a ton of money doing that and also being a Western historian. And yeah.
Well, what's really smart is Peter said, I realized that, everybody has a career arc and I wanted to work forever. And so he's made himself indispensable as a Western historian. He's written a couple of books. He has the set dressings. He has the armory. He's got, saddles and wardrobe and everything else. So whenever he rents to studios, there's a provision in it that he also acts in their TV show or their movie. So he's come in through the back door as well. I mean, he went in through the front door, but he created this backdoor business for him that keeps him working all the time. And he's got a ranch.
Yeah,
that
that's an excellent point. I forgot about that, Rex. You're absolutely right. When we first went to him, we didn't go to him as an actor, wanting to hire him as an actor. We didn't even know about that. We had seen his company online, and again, going to research. You know, you can use that research for yourself as a producer as well, finding great little cottage industries like Peter's that can really help serve your film. And when we saw what he had, I mean, and he also supplied the horses, the wranglers and the horses. So we had, I think it was about 40 horses in our film, and all the wranglers as well. So we went to talk to him about that, and here's this like unbelievably wonderful crusty cowboy was sitting there with a stogie, and he said, "Well, you know, I'll come in and I'll give you an even better deal if you put me in the movie." I said, "Great, what are we talking about?" And we happened to have a role that was perfect for him, and he did a terrific job as Farley. But even if he didn't, as a writer, Grant, I would, and as a producer, need to be open to going, well, I can save maybe $5,000, $6,000 to $8,000 on this by putting this guy in, even though, of course, you know, I've got to pay him too. But at the end of the day, I'm going to still wind up saving $8,000. He's in.
Yeah, and one other thing, and what Peter did, others have done. I have a friend in Milwaukee who's trying to make himself indispensable as a police SWAT team military consultant. Dennis Farina, who passed away in the last year or so.
I worked with him. I worked with Dennis. Yeah.
He's a lovely guy. Was a Chicago police officer, and so he had expertise. And I believe that Michael Mann went to. So the story is that Michael Mann used him as a consultant on Red Dragon. Is that the name of it? The original Silence of the Lambs. And then said you need a series and created Police Story for him or crime story for him. Because they had become friends, and he became a TV star, and as a result, then had launched that Manhunter. Yeah.
Oh yes, yes.
So if you have an expertise, whatever that may be, it could be sewing wardrobe, it could be researching for screenplays or for books, it could be that you happen to love some aspect of sports. I lobbied for The Mentalist because that's obviously my background. I didn't get it, but before they shot the show, I was like, bring me on as a consultant. Very difficult to reach those people, though, at that time. So if you can do that, that's another way of launching a career and getting other things going. Have something that makes you indispensable to the people that are out hiring, and then give them a good deal.
Yeah, being very creative, absolutely.
Yeah.
And some of the other things I was just thinking about, actually, when you said that, I think you can all really benefit from social media too, and that is really become a gigantic aspect of this in terms of promotion, in terms of fundraising, promotion before the film even is made to promote it. Obviously, any of the Kickstarter or any of the online fundraising online companies that you would then start raising your own money for as well. You can also make that part and parcel. Having some independent financing from people that you know, and also doing it going public, and then also using it as a promotional tool from start to finish. I mean, we're still promoting this on social media, and it's just an ongoing thing. It really is. And if you're going to produce, know that you're going to be producing that movie for a couple of years.
Be a long project. You don't hand it off anymore.
Yeah, you shouldn't.
No.
You could still keep making money and garnering other deals on it, and really making the sales for your investors really count if you stay in it for the long term, even if it's in a tertiary way through social media.
Awesome. Who else? Any other questions? Who besides Ryan has a question that they want to ask, and then Ryan can ask his? Stephen.
Hello, my name's Stephen.
Hi, Stephen.
Hello. It's nice talking with you.
Same
as-
here.
I was wondering, as a female director, how do you work to improve the disparities in the male-dominated film industry? And do you think
I was
you
actually
write,
really hoping this would come up.
do you think you write
Because
differently than male
it
writers?
is the question of the year. It really is.
What was what's it? What was the end?
Oh, I was just saying, do you think you write differently than male writers nowadays? If so, how?
Do I rank? Can you? do I rank-
He said first off the disparity between men and women in the industry, and the second was as a woman writer, do you feel that you write differently than a male writer would write?
Oh wow! Ooh, that one just gave me chills.
Did I answer right?
Okay. The first part, obviously, the disparity. I mean, it's crazy in the film industry. And I recently joined, within the past year, I joined Women in Film, which is an amazing organization. It really, really is a sisterhood. It's quite beautiful, and there are men in it as well. And this is the continual. This is at every event I go to. This is what we're talking about all the time. And yes, there is a huge disparity. The numbers are astronomically low for women in film and television, and of course now they've actually broadened it because of course there's digital. Part of it is that I think some women are just intimidated by it. They just know it is a male-dominated field, and maybe they don't have a chance. Maybe that holds them back. And part of it is just the politics of it. I think it's endemic, obviously, in the entertainment business. But if you look at the business world and look at politics, even the majority are men. I'm hoping that maybe we get a woman president, and that might help change things and might help change the wages also that women get. And I think the only way to make that disparity shift is for women to actually take it upon themselves to go out and do what they really should feel that is their passion and they should be doing. And just don't keep saying, just no matter how many times you get a no, find another way around that. The way that men can help is to help those women on their journey. Because honestly, I was one of the few women on set. I was the only, I was hiring men. That's who I was hiring, not for any other reason other than this person was right for the job. I certainly hired plenty of women too. And I tried to make it as inclusionary as possible. Every race, every age, every color, every gender. I really tried to make it. It looked like the United Nations on our set. It was hilarious, actually. But women will hire men. They're not going to just hire women. For the most part, they're going to, if they're fair, they're going to try to hire the best person for the job. And so I think men can applaud women and help them and give them a hand up whenever they can as well. And women are very loving when they're working. I mean, it's a different way of working. I don't think there's necessarily a different way of writing, but they do add, that energy is different on set. It is. I found that working with the guys on set overall, we're one big family. It has been a very loving, growing experience, and we all keep helping to support one another. So I'm hoping that those are some of the ways that we can change things. I do feel that as a writer, when I've read pieces of my screenplays to people, just maybe in passing or over the phone or whatever the case might be, I mean, who knows, just conversation sometimes, they sit there and they say, I can't believe a woman just wrote that. How are you writing the dialogue of these Western men? How do you know that? And I think it all kind of comes back for me as being an actor. As an actor, I wasn't a murderer either, but I would have to play one, right? So it has to come from the place of organically, who is this character? And then the gender comes second to that. And then that kind of fans out into the screenplay as well. It's not I don't write from a gender-specific way. I'm writing from a human being, a place of being a human being, and what those attributes of those characters may or may not be, and creating that entire story, also from a place of what it is that I want to say, period. What do I want to say? So it is rare for a woman to write a Western. But I tried not to even view it from that standpoint. I just dove in saying what is it that I want to tell.
All right. Cool. Other questions? We'll go with Ryan while the rest of you formulate yours.
I was just wondering what your specific path to becoming an actress in the industry was, and whether or not you think that that's something that, like, filmmakers could potentially do, either as a way to get into the film industry, or as something that they can, like, to formulate as a career, or whether or not filmmaking is a more viable option in the entertainment industry right now.
Yeah, I think filmmaking is the more viable option because it actually gives you a lot more power. And you can certainly do both things, and you can do them concurrently. I mean, you can be a filmmaker and putting yourself in your own films. Now you've got the power. You have the ability to showcase yourself through your own medium. Nobody can take it away from you. It gives you, it bolsters whatever acting you would like to do. I know that even in Women in Film, and like I said, this is a beautiful organization, but if I walk up to the vice president of Sony Pictures and I say, "Hi, I'm Lenore Andriel and I'm an actress," they're like, "Ah, that's nice." Anyway, and they're off in another direction because then they know I want something from them. But if I say to them, I'm an actress who owns my own production company, and I write and produce and direct, all of a sudden now they actually have an interest in talking to me. Because now we might be able to do something together. It gives you a real basis to launch those other areas if you want to be an actor, or if you would like to do kind of both. It gives you a good platform and a good basis where it opens up the possibility of them working with you in another way.
Well, and excuse me, to the point also that Lenore has, produced and written, this movie and stuff. She has a work that she can fall back on. Whereas if you just walk up and go, "Hi, I'm a producer director," and they go, "Okay, cool. What have you done?" And you go, "Well, I haven't done anything. I just." So it's all about your credibility. So the reels that you're putting together, the films that you're making now, those can be used to with these introductions for people to say, "Let me see a sample of your work." So you want to have a reel, you want to have something, you want to have scripts that you've written, you want to have, if you're editor, have examples of things you've edited. If you want to be a DP, have examples of a DP reel, a cinematographer reel. If you're a director, then direct. And
Yeah, that's true. Actually, that's a very good point. Because, I've been doing independent film for the most part, leads in independent film. That's just sort of how my path went. And also, I had started in theater and got up to Broadway, etc. And then came out here and continued doing film. By having done that film, having done Yellow Rock, and, I got 3 or 4 Best Actress awards out of it. So even though I produced it and wrote the screenplay and got awards for screenplay writing, Best Screenplay, and got a Best Picture awards, that happened to come with it as well. What a great situation. So now instead of just being an actor, now I'm an award-winning actress and being a screenplay. All of those things really helped the other categories that I was doing on Yellow Rock. And want to continue to do as well with my company. So there's a lot of pluses out of being able to do, if you want to be an actor, there's a lot of pluses out of that can come out of being either a filmmaker or, Grant, like you were saying, being a screenplay writer. Because now you own the material that you've written for yourself. And that makes it easier on some levels to attach yourself to that material. Well, you wrote this role for yourself. And if you can surround yourself with other more well-known actors, now you've got something. Now you've got something that could be of interest to a producer or to an independent film company. You see what I'm saying?
Tom Malloy, who I hope will be a guest, he's a friend and a producer, filmmaker, has produced a number of movies. And his philosophy, like yours, is that he would write a movie and then put himself as the third or fourth lead. Because if he's starring in it, nobody else, you're not going to get a big name that wants to be the second banana. But if you're the third or fourth lead in the movie, then you've acted with all the other stars that you get into your movie. So now your reel looks good, your movies look good, and they have an interest in being in the film because they're still the top dogs.
Yes, and that's thank you for bringing that up because that is an important part of this. When we went to do Yellow Rock, I didn't make my role the lead role. The lead roles were the two men, the antagonist and the protagonist, supported by the two Native American actors, brothers. I created them as brothers as well, the Spears brothers, and then made the female lead for myself. Because in this particular film, because it's a Western, the males are what is important. I haven't changed it yet, but that was sort of my backdoor way of helping to change it. You know, okay, I know that the Western is going to be very male-centric. That's what it is. That hasn't changed yet. Women starring in a Western, it's just not something that a lot of people are very interested in yet. So I knew what my market was. I put myself in a female lead role in an independent, which I had done before. It's not her story, but it's kind of told in some ways through her. She's the heart of the movie. So you kind of see it somewhat through her eyes, but it's not about her. So this was important because just like you said, the movie's got to sell. And those my male co-stars, they're what sold the movie. And that was a really great way to continue doing female lead roles in independence for myself. And at the same time, I knew, okay, I need to...
Oh,
You need to freeze. Let's see here. I'm afraid if I pause it, it's going to get screwed up. So, nope, we dropped the call.
Maybe her iPad might have died.
It's possible.
Yeah. Unless it was plugged in.
All right, we'll figure this out because. All right, I'll try. Yeah, I'm not going to pause this. This program is too wacky. Let me. And I won't edit it either. Oh, I forgot to record it the other way. Is your iPod still running? I said the call dropped, so is your iPad running? Do you have it plugged in? All right, well, it says you're offline, so we're trying to get back online.
Yeah,
Let's see. I don't see you, your camera come up, so. Yeah, see if you can call me back. Oh, ringing, not doing anything here. See what's going on. Yeah, it's not even ringing here. I wonder what. Here, let me do this. I'm going to close Skype and reopen it. And makes me wonder if I'm. Let me do this. See if we're. That's up. All right. So think of questions. Think of questions. Hang on. It may be a line thing. Here, let me try something else. Because I'm not unable to connect to the internet. So it's an internet thing on our side here, it appears. Let me see if, let me see if there's a Wi-Fi thing. Hey, you're back. All right.
Okay, so let me try this. There we go. Okay.
Ta-da.
Yes.
Yeah, and I probably won't edit that out, just so people know. All right, excellent. So that was a school Wi-Fi. They apparently turned the Wi-Fi on and shut the hard line down.
Oh, I see. Okay.
All right, so where were we? Who has a question? Yes, Aaron.
This is Aaron again. How many hours a week would you say you clock in working with doing like everything that you do?
Ooh, wow. It's interesting. Having your own business, you are the toughest boss there is. Are you getting an echo, Rex?
No?
It just happens.
You're probably hearing it go through your machine, your iPad. It's bouncing.
Yeah. Okay. Oh wow. Yeah, it's really bouncing. Having your own company makes a difference because it could be 1 a.m, and if I have a thought this doesn't have anything to do with you owning your own company, but if I have a thought as a writer, I will sit down at 1 a.m. and I'll start writing. But that aside, having Enlightenment Films, it's in my head. Oh my God, I didn't call Rex back. Let me try to email him at 1 a.m.
And she does.
There's always an ongoing list of things to do, and then of course being an actor, I can get up and be on set like I was the last week, and I'm running a set and have to be there by 6 a.m. and then come back, and of course now it doesn't matter that it's 6 p.m. I still have to do all my emails and text messages and messaging and whatever it is that I need to do in order to continue on with my other projects that I'm producing, or do some social media on Yellow Rock, be tweeting about that. So it's really, really beyond full time. It really is. But I love it. I mean, it is my passion, and you really do. I think it's up to you, really, in terms of how much you want to get done, how fast you want to go. I have so many projects. I want to go really fast, so I'm logging very little sleep and a lot of work hours. Look,
I think it's fair to say that work is anything that doesn't include your passion. If you're passionate about stuff, you do it and you love it and you enjoy it and it's fun and it's a thrill, and no matter how tough it is or challenging it is, there's a reward in it. And if it's something that you don't care about, then it's harder to do. I'm not enthused about taxes, for example. I wish I were, but I just am not. So doing taxes is work. Making a movie, 12, 15, 20 hours on a set is what we live for. So it's a very different thing. You're not actually working when you're putting in all these hours. Even though you're working, you're not. It doesn't come off to like work. I wanted to point out, because you mentioned it, Enlightenment Films. You have sort of identified yourself with the purpose of the kind of films that you wanted to make, as opposed to just making anything. You have a kind of a brand, a kind of a purpose or a mission. You want to speak to that?
Yeah. Look, I'm certainly not the only one that does that, and that doesn't mean that, if someone wants to make a horror movie, that there's anything wrong in that at all. I had just gotten to a place where I thought there's just so many topics where if I attack that issue, I might be able to shine a light on something that could actually make a difference, or bring information to people, or touch them in some way where they're going to go, oh my God, wow, I actually didn't know that. I am astounded. And we actually did that with Yellow Rock. You know, as I said before when I was talking, I think, with Grant about screenplay writing and doing the research, I had no idea how many Native Americans were annihilated in this country. And it's well over 250 million. You know, when you think about the Holocaust,
Right.
and there's 6 to 9 million people that were annihilated, and you talk about 250 million people, I had no idea. So all of a sudden, I'm writing a story that, for me, I'm thinking, well, yeah, I know. You know, we've done what were the odds, right? That this hour I'm going to start getting text messages. I know that we've done movies like this. We've seen these movies in the past. You know, oh, the bad white man and, you know, the good Native American. Okay, but for me, there's not enough information out there that's shining a light on the fact that even in small ways, we were quietly annihilating them, whether it was a small band of people going in and trying to take over their land and their gold. So for me, having a mission where I'm saying something in our film, even if it's, I don't want to be preachy. I just want to really bring out something that makes people think and talk about it and affects them. And that's my path that I chose. That doesn't mean everybody has to.
Well, it's an interesting thing. I think it was Robert McGee that said, if you look at professional writers, most of the professional writers write around one thing. I can't think of who. Geez, who was it? It's a friend of mine. I can't. Anyway, for example, it may be that the writer's stories all have to do with the relationship with their mom or their dad in some way. So the characters, the antagonists, protagonists, have some kind of familial discord or harmony that is in each of their scripts. Another might be a struggle from, you know, poverty to riches. You know, that there are themes that are embedded in their work, and they don't write like a horror film and a comedy and a romance and a western and a gladiator movie and all these different things. That while they might write different genres, there's something about their body of work that is all coming from a place that's important to them, or from something that deeply affects them, or a message that, not a preachy message, but a message that they have that they're trying to get out, or an issue that they're trying to work out in themselves, and it comes out in their work.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to remember who one of my friends said that almost everything he wrote, it was Penn who talked about the things that he was doing, and it had women in his film, and it had, because his mother died when he was young, he found that there was a family. Remember that? I'm talking about that? The connection in his, whether it was the Robin Hood movie with Kevin Costner, or it was other things that he produced, that it had to do with the woman and son relationship in many ways.
Yeah, that's true. I think you're right. You have to come from your passion. You know, you really do, because there are so many times when on the journey things get really hard, and you sit there and you say, "What am I doing this for?" You know, I'm exhausted. Maybe I'm getting, you know, beat up in the press, or you're getting beat up by, you know, some cast member or a lawyer or whatever it might be, or you're just not having a great day, and that passion for what you're doing will really help get you through at the end of the day. It really will. I mean, there were times, even on set of doing Yellow Rock, where we were pulling our hair out. Everything was going wrong. Everything.
And it's 120 degrees.
It's 120 degrees, and everybody's, you know, moaning and groaning and you know, flipping out and angry, and you're, oh my God, we can't make anybody happy today. But the passion for what we're doing is going, okay, remember that this is why we're doing this. And that can serve, you know, even Grant with screenplay writing. You know, you can sit there, and I've sat there sometimes at 5 in the morning and saying, oh my God, I just don't think I have it in me anymore to write. And then I'll start reading back the last 10, 15 pages and go, yeah, this is why I'm sitting here and doing this. So that passion can go a long way. Is there a student that's okay behind you, Rex? He looks like he passed out. Is he okay?
No, he's looking at the screen, so he's kind of like.
I got worried about him.
Yeah, no. Good of you to notice. Just so that you know, logistically, we've got about 20 minutes left, and then we'll have to say goodbye. So, other questions? Other comments? Yes,
Hi,
sir.
I'm Boo.
This is Vu.
Hi.
What was the worst thing that happened to you since you got into the industry?
Oh, wow.
And you don't have to name names.
The worst thing that happened to me since I got in the industry. Okay. Yeah, I got one. I was trying to. Actually, it was interesting when you asked that. There wasn't a plethora of things that popped into my mind, so that's a good thing. But one of the worst things I would say is we were seconds from premiering here in Los Angeles at the Simon Wiesenthal Theater, and one of the I'll just say one of the people from the film was refusing to come to the premiere and text me a really horrible text message, very vile, very horrible. And I had my girls here, and they were doing my hair and makeup and getting me dressed, and a house full of people, and the limousine was waiting, and a theater full of people. It was really hideously destructive. I mean, it really was. I started crying. It was really, really vile. It was very disparate. It was disparaging about the film, and personally attacking me. Really wishing that myself in the film rot in hell, and I'm being really nice. There was no real reason for this behavior other than sort of this crazy idea that they thought they could have made the movie better. And it was really it just ripped my heart out. It really did. And I had liked this person, and this sort of came out of nowhere. They had seen a cut of the movie without my permission, and just sort of took it upon, and it was a bad cut, and they took it upon themselves to rip the film apart and come and attack me personally seconds before I'm going to leave for our premiere. And I really broke down because, at this point I was exhausted. We had been through hell in making the film. We were finally having some sort of a reward in Los Angeles. And this is really, it was disgusting. And so what helped me, interestingly enough, because the girls couldn't even do my hair or makeup. I was just crying the makeup off, and I didn't even want to go to my own premiere. I was just so devastated by it. And my business partner, Steve, who you know, Rex,
Yep.
He called me up, and one of the movies that had kind of spurred us both was Dances with Wolves. There's a heart to Dances with Wolves that really kind of inspired us. And he said, "You're not going to believe nothing he would say would make me stop crying." He said, "Well, I want you to listen to this." And he had it on his TV. He just happened to have it in the background and happened to be on. And I could hear the music all of a sudden. And I broke down even more for a couple of seconds, but it reminded me of why I did all this. It really brought me right back to, this is why I did it. This is really why I did this. And unbeknownst to me, and to any of us, when we pulled up in the limousine to the theater, there were all these people. And we thought, oh, because it was also a museum. Oh, they must be having an exhibit here at the same time that they're premiering our film. And we walk in, and the whole place exploded into applause. And it was like walking in slow motion, that all these hundreds of people were there to see our film. Had this guy known, that this was going to happen, or had I known at the time that I got this text message from him that this was going to happen, maybe I wouldn't have been affected as much. But it was a pretty hideous thing to happen, but it wound up becoming one of the best nights of my life.
Fantastic. Other questions?
I have another one, actually, because this is...
Here's another horror story. Go for it.
The reason what made me think of it, and what I think, the reason why I think it's important, is as a producer on the film, we had a horrible moment where the horses had been tied up to some of the trees on the side, waiting. They were actors too. They were on hold, waiting for the next scene. And the wranglers were sort of in the area, but not standing right next to them. And all of a sudden, one of the horses must have reared and hit a beehive. And so all of these horses that were tied to this gigantic oak tree were being stung unmercifully and rearing and screaming and yelling. And I was at base camp getting ready, and all of a sudden I hear all the radios going off, and everybody comes running into my dressing room screaming, "The horses are being stung, the horses are being killed." I mean, it was panic and pandemonium like you can't believe. And the wranglers and some of our crew ran immediately to the horses and were trying to climb up and untie them because they were now all getting tangled. Some of them got kicked in the ribs. Some of our crew, they were being stung. I mean, we're talking about thousands of bees, thousands. So one of the horses almost died. He was just covered in bee stings. We thought that our another guy, one of our co-producers on it, he got injured. It was a horrible moment. I mean, there was just devastation and seeming destruction to our cast and crew members and horses, and it wound up all becoming totally fine. Everybody was fine. Nobody was seriously injured. They were able to nurse the horses and take some of them offset, obviously, and take care of them. Everything wound up being all right in the long run. But for over an hour and a half, things were really looking black. And of course, as a producer, I mean, these are people I love. These are horses that I love. I mean, I was nauseated and freaking out, and I couldn't get up there right away because I had to wait for one of the golf carts to come down and get me. So it was a pretty scary moment.
Wow.
As a producer, always be ready for accidents,
It's also why you're insured.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, it's a necessary expense. I mean,
It is a necessary expense, and you have a lot of insurance.
who else? What else? We have.
I have another.
Okay.
Just going off of that, how much of your budget was consumed by insurance? Like, how much should you I know I've taken a class called The Producer's Role where we talked a little bit about this, but in practicalities, how much of your budget should you just be like, well, that's gone?
Oh, I wish I could remember the exact amount. Honestly, it's comparatively speaking, it's not that much when you're talking about the entire below the line in line items. It's really not, and it's so worth it because as an independent film, we had to insure obviously the ranch where we were shooting at, and I think he wanted a $3 million policy. Which supposedly is pretty standard. So that was, I want to say it was like $1,000 or between $1,000 and $1,500, something like that. So maybe it was, it wasn't a gigantic amount. And then we also had to have workman's comp. And someone did claim that she was stung by something. And she did have to go to the hospital and have it looked at and get some care and go to a doctor and some medicine, nothing major, but medicines and et cetera, et cetera. And she needed workman's comp. So we had those two insurances. And thank God we did, and we didn't need to use the property insurance. But that insurance policy also covered equipment.
Right.
That $3 million policy covered equipment and fire. I mean, you're doing a Western in the middle of the summer. Somebody could be off smoking, and you don't even know about it. So it covered pretty much everything. And then we had to have E&O insurance in order to have to sign on for distribution.
And that's errors and omissions, and it has to do with
Copyright stuff.
yeah,
Yes.
and all the paperwork and all the releases and everything, and
Yes.
much more. But
And you have to, and by the way, you have to have that. They won't. You cannot get distribution. That, as far as I know, I could be wrong, But the distributors that we were working with, we had to have it. And that actually was more expensive than anything. I remember that was like around $3,000, I think, for 3 years. And recently they just sent to my attorney and myself a letter, the insurance company, saying that the 3 years was up and did we want to re-up. And so I asked our attorney, I said, what do we do on this? I don't know. And he said, no. He said, now, you've abided by the contract for distribution for 3 years. No, nothing has come out as a claim. There is nothing. So now you're fine. You don't need to reinsure it again at this point.
What was that process like? What was that process like? Because I heard from one of the other professors here that has gone through that process that is kind of a pain. The E&O, like getting one of those with the distributor. Like they sit down with you and go through the entire film. What was that process like?
For getting distribution, you mean?
Yeah.
You're saying the E&O process is...
Oh, that was pretty easy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, we also have a producer's rep. So the producer's rep, who is also part of the law firm that handles us, and it's a big law firm, entertainment law firm, they got us the E&O insurance, the E&O insurer, which was Truman Van Dyke. And Truman Van Dyke went out, and it was pretty easy peasy for them. There was nothing that they could find within the script, nothing that was out there, no other projects where there would be any kind of infringement. And so they did all the work, and then they came back and supplied the certificates. And then I was CC'd, my attorney was CC'd, and our producer's rep. And then it went to both distributors, and it was, for us, it was a pretty easy process.
You actually asked a better question than I did there. So, I guess that would be my follow-up to that. What was the distribution process like?
What was the distribution process like?
Yeah.
That was what was difficult in terms of deliveries. No one told me. So let me tell you right now, this is so important for you guys to know. As a filmmaker, as a producer, no one explained to me that delivery items were going to be so expensive, so time-consuming, so gut-wrenching in terms of all of the deadlines and the items that you need. I wish someone had told me that, and I wish they had told me that beforehand, because that needs to be built in as a line item in your budget, because we were out of money, and all of a sudden now we had to provide $30,000 to $35,000 worth of HDR cams and SDR and SD drives and reformatting the movie, going back in the studio and reformatting it for television, and all kinds of promotional materials and EPKs. The list was gargantuan and costly. And we had to provide all of these items for both North American distributor, Screen Media, and for foreign, for Epic Pictures. And I was pulling my hair out. That's where it was really, it was a real pain. It really was. And so you need to have the time, the effort, the manpower, the money, and build that in beforehand and going in, and because it's an excruciating process. And what we wound up doing, this is how I circumvented it. I used the MG from my North American distributor to pay for the deliverables for the foreign. And for the deliverables for the North American distributor, I went to all of my post houses and said, look, I'm going to send you a copy of what I'm going to get from them in terms of financial MG that's coming in about, there was a whole breakdown, a schedule breakdown.
Explain MG.
Oh, minimum guarantee.
Yeah.
So we received a really great minimum guarantee, which is usually pretty rare, I understand, for an independent film. And what they do is they're betting on your movie. So they give you, they run the numbers, the estimates. They see what they think the movie's going to gross. They give you a portion of that in terms of we're going to bet you right now, we're going to loan you this money against the film, that the film will come back and do those numbers and more, but you do need to pay that back. And they do charge interest for that, by the way. And that comes out in the first position out of those sales. So I hope that answers that question.
And it does seem daunting, but everybody goes through it. I mean, it's just a necessary part of the business. And for listeners, you guys and others, the director John Keyes and I did, I think, a 6 or 8 or 9-part series on deliverables on Rex Sikes Movie Beat and what they are and listed them off and stuff like that. I think I've done it with somebody else as well. I mean, we've discussed it. So.
I wish I had listened to that, Rex.
Yes, years ago, back in 2009 or 10, right.
Is there any other way I can help any of you?
Yeah, we've got a few moments, and then we're going to have to wrap it up. So any final thoughts or questions, Stephen?
Just real quick, we connect with you on LinkedIn?
Can you connect with you on LinkedIn or Facebook or social media? Is there a way to connect with you?
Oh, please do. Oh, I'd love that. Yes, we're on Facebook as Yellow Rock Movie. Please hit us up there, like our page, etc. We do have some staff members that answer people back. Then there's also my actress page there. I will certainly hit you back personally. We're on Twitter, and we have yellowrockmovie.com as our website as well. And I'm also on LinkedIn. So Lenore Andriel and Yellow Rock Movie under everything on social media. I'd love to hear from any of you guys, and reference, if you will, that you're in Rex's class and that we had this great conversation. I'm more than happy to help anybody if I can.
Cool. Anything that you want to, unless somebody's going to say anything you want to wrap up with in in 2 or 3 minutes?
I want to encourage everyone to use their instincts, because your instincts really, to me, they're your connection to really who you are and sort of, the ether and what's going on out there. I think, as artists, you probably have a real good sense of who you are and what you want to do. And no matter how many courses you're going to take, once you get out there and start being in the film business, there's 1,000,001 different experiences you're going to have. And if you always keep listening to your instincts, I think you're probably going to be right a majority of the time. And any mistakes that I made, and I've certainly made plenty of them, and you will make mistakes, had I listened to my instincts, I would have been a lot better off. So there's something intrinsically right about that. And I really wish all of you an amazingly wonderful career and a lot of success. And I applaud you guys for taking the courses and taking such a wonderful course with such a wonderful man, Rex Sikes.
Oh, my.
You can get so much from Rex. And I've really been honored to be here. And I hope something I've said has spurred something for you or given you some insight that you didn't have before.
Well, you've been fabulous. It's wonderful as always. Talking to you on or off the air. I will call you from the car shortly, within the hour or so. But thank you kindly for everything, and hopefully, I have the screener of Yellow Rock. Maybe one of these days we can watch it.
Oh, that would be great.
What I'm proposing, what we do is we try and come in on an off class time where we've got 2 or 3 or 4 hours and can just watch some of the works, and plus we've got student works and things like that. So, love to have them see Yellow Rock, and especially since we've talked about it. They can also listen to the other discussions we've had with you and Steve and Peter and Michael and Eddie and Katie and Danny and yeah, I mean there's a number of and Randy. So, and the list goes on, and it will continue. So, all right. Well, you have a fabulous day. You've been marvelous. I certainly appreciate it. I'll talk to you in a little bit.
Thank you so much, Rex.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. It was a real pleasure talking to you. Great questions, guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.